You like to sew, journal, maybe have lots and lots of different crafts, right? So you need good storage. Well, I'm using these, and I think you probably have these hanging around your house too. Just general rubbish, right? So let's transform these into something so nice, so good looking that we can't wait to make more and more. That's what I'm doing at the moment. I can't wait to show you how. If you've seen any of my videos before, you might remember that I really have a bit of a thing for storage. I find it a problem that when you go and buy storage, it's not usually as durable as it should be. It's quite often plastic. It has lots of good things about it. So if it's plastic, you can see through it, the boxes and things. That's great. But as I say, they're not durable and they're just not very pretty, are they? Which is okay, except we can do better, lots better. So these are what I'm starting with. Foil was on this one. This was a longer one, so again it had foil or something on it, and I've just cut it down to size. So the first thing is we want to have a nice practical size. It's no good having fabric that's, you know, this long and having a tube that's only half it. And this has worked really well for me. I'm sure lots of chalk and chalk type paints will work, and I know lots of other people make their own chalk paints as well. I have tried that, so that might be in another video. And this has worked really well for me. So I found some coasters. Now if you can see these, they were old. They're not quite round. Can you see? They're not quite oval either. They're just, I think perhaps they're handmade. They were just ordinary coasters. Bit peeling. The varnish has been on for years obviously, and they've been, you know, they've just been well used, that's all. So I wanted to take the varnish off, so I've sanded those, and then I wanted to wax them. Now while looking for the wax, that's when I found the paint. So I'm going to use both. Now originally I was just going to paint the top, but I decided to do the top and underneath, and then I still actually put a little bit, just a tiny bit, around the edges here, just so that it looked as though it was sort of time worn, you know. And then obviously I've rubbed it back a little bit before I've put the wax on. So all good. Two of those. I'm still looking for more but can't find any at the moment. And then I've painted this in exactly the same way, one of these tubes. Now the thing with these tubes is they're really nice. I want to show you one of the others. So I painted this one as well, but I didn't realise that it had some paper on it, some tape. I didn't realise that until I was painting it, but it did make a difference when I waxed it afterwards. That took a little bit off, you know, just of the edges. I mean, I can just touch that up. It's really not a problem. So all we want to do is attach these to these. And so to do that, I've rolled up cardboard, look, several pieces, just rubbish on there, several pieces of corrugated because we want it nice and fat. Alright, this bit here, nice and fat, stuff it in there, just to the very edge. We don't want it to go in anymore, so at this stage have it just a tiny bit proud, and then we just glue this onto there. Now which glue you use, that's completely up to you. I'm using a super glue here, a Gorilla Glue, something like that works well, but as always we're out of glue. We used some the other day, or my husband used some the other day on some crockery that I'd broken, and it's worked really well. So I'm just going to stick that to that right now. I'm not going to go right to the edge. I want to be able to move it a little bit if necessary. Just do it by eye, that will be absolutely fine. Now you don't need to watch me while I wait for the glue to go off to you, so I'll come back to this in a second. Please watch this video all the way through in case there's something that I do that doesn't work. I don't want you to follow in my footsteps. I want you to be able to do it nicely and easily after I've done all the trial and error for you. So while that's drying, I want to show you the other bits I've had. So these coasters here, they're great. I can't find them again. What if we don't have those? Well, then we just use a lid. This lid with the chalk paint, I wasn't sure if it was going to stick, so I did actually rough it up a lot, and this one seemed to stick on it absolutely fine, but obviously you'll need to try it out yourself. We don't need to worry about wasting those, but try a little bit. So sand it first, try a bit of your chalk paint on it, and then put some wax over the top and see if it actually stays on. It might be that it chips off really easily or something, so just make sure that you do your groundwork first on that. And a couple of coats this one took. Now this one I've painted with exactly the same there, but I wanted the edges, you see on these spools, you see how it's has this metal piece around here. Well, I wanted it to look a little bit more like that. So can you see there how it's shiny? I've painted it with some, I thought I would have some brown paint somewhere, but I didn't have any. So I used a little bit of black paint and then I went over it with the shoe polish. So this time it was this one, dark tan. It looks darker than that because I put on my black paint first, but either one will work. The thing with this is you can, you know, buff it to get that sort of metallic kind of look back to it. Alright, so at the minute it's still yucky on the bottom, but that looks pretty good on the top. Don't forget to give it time. I think they say about 20 minutes, or ideally overnight I would leave it before you actually buff up the wax afterward. So 2 of those looking pretty good, I'd say, from that, wouldn't you? And again, on this bit I've just put a bit of extra around here, a bit of extra wax. I'm just trying to make the whole thing look like it's made of wood there and then metal there. So then I wanted to do a couple of these to put inside. Can you see how much bigger it is? It's not a lot, just a few mil all around, but that allows us then to push that in. I'll put a dab of glue on the bottom in a minute, but I'll get half of it in first, flip it back and put a bit of more of that glue in there. So don't forget, this one here is a gel, but you'll need to, before you do this, just test it on this bit here, because you don't want it to come right through your fabric, do you? It's not the same as this, but it's pretty near, and this is the same felt that I use for everything else. It has a really high wool content, and it just means that you don't get the creases in it and things like that, the same you do with the cheaper ones. Really well worth it, because, you know, we're spending time and effort doing this, aren't we? So if the materials you use are, you know, too cheap to begin with, then, well, we're only going to be disappointed after we've put in all the time. So now all I'm going to do is attach those again to there. As I say, this little bit here I can just touch up a bit later. So those 2 on there. So also in the recycling, I found this box here, so I'm tearing these off. Crack it all the way down first. Now it looks like you should put some tape around it to keep it like it, but we don't really want to do that, because what we want to do is stuff it in as tight as we can, and then this expands again afterwards. So we want it really tight in there. So it's not a lot that I need to take off, is it? But don't worry overly about cutting too much off, because we can always add some more if we need to. A little bit more again. On my first ones that I was doing, I wasn't doing it tight enough, so then I just added in an extra piece, and that worked absolutely fine. It's just the way that works for me. Right, really snug in there. You see this bit here might help us at the end, but it needs to be the right size. So that one in there, as I say, keep it a little bit proud for the minute on there. In fact, what I'm going to do is add a whole piece here, I think. So I want this piece to be slightly smaller than that, because we don't want it to stick out over here. Alright, in fact, tiny bit there. Now a glue gun would be absolutely brilliant for this, so that's what I'd recommend you use if you have one. I actually have lots of glue sticks, plenty of these, but I just don't know where my actual glue gun is for a minute. Using a glue gun would be ideal. into our lid. Okay, so I would worry at the minute about keeping this bit nice and straight, but I wouldn't be worried about pushing this into this tube yet. You see how the card's still showing a little bit? Just keep it like that for a while, because if this doesn't stick properly, we still need it a little bit proud. The other thing is, don't make this too short. Don't be too stingy with your second-hand cardboard. Want it to go a couple of inches up. Some sort of band just to keep it there while you put this in here. And if you kind of screw it in, so if you go the opposite way to the edge here, so if the edge is pointing that way, I'm going to actually pull it towards me clockwise. So you can push that in nicely, take off your band, get it right in there, and then let it expand. That way we have a nice strong fit. Don't do what I've done, hey? Actually, it still looks fine, doesn't it? Luckily. But I could always paint over it a little bit. Okay, I think you'll agree. That's a good looking little spool, isn't it? Really nice. And don't forget, we've hidden this bit under here, but we're not really going to see that because we're going to have things, you know, wrapped around it, aren't we? So how's this one doing? Yep, that one's seems like it's stuck, but I'm just going to leave it longer to make sure it is completely done. So what if we don't have either of these two things? What if we don't have a tin lid? Or what if we just want something smaller? So this is how I store these at the minute, so that will go on there perfectly, won't it? But I've also tried a couple of other things. Now these are little slices that I've cut from, actually my husband again has cut from some branches a few years ago, and they dried really nicely. Some little holes in there, look. Now put that on there, and I thought, oh, that looks quite nice, look, doesn't it, for those little cottons. Obviously you would have to break this one off when you wanted to replace a cotton, or you could just put some blue tack or something like that in there. That's probably what I would do. However, the thing with this is it's just so wobbly, you see. So if I had that lying down a drawer, I think that would look really nice. But other than that, I really wouldn't use it for this. Now these are actually from that. So that's a plant label, but obviously I've just kind of whittled down the other end of as well. So it went that way, cut that bit off, and made that one less sharp so that it fitted into the hole, that's all. So if you're going to do that, it fits in there quite nicely. You can start by making your hole with a pair of scissors if you don't have, you know, a screwdriver or anything around. Or I've been using these. Now I know these shouldn't really be used in this way, except I don't really get on with these as little kind of snippy things, so I tend to use them as a tool for other things. So as long as you can get your stick of any kind to go in there and actually be quite rigid, then you're good to go. Alright, so I probably won't be making any more of those, purely because they are a bit too wobbly. So the reason that this doesn't work really is that this is only about the same size as this, and they need to be much bigger, like the spools there. So then I tried with these. Now these are little rounds from a game. You might have seen in a video before where I was talking about my craft room here that I had several of these in a little game, and I just thought, oh, they're too nice to throw. So I did make a hole here with this, and I found a stick. Years ago, for literally a couple of pounds, I bought this. I think it's, well, I guess it's garden edging, is it? Not sure. It was literally a couple of pounds. It wasn't very much at all. And I have been using this for years and years now. I use it for lots of things. It's just a stick, isn't it? So you just cut it to length. You see, it's not even straight, but it works absolutely fine in different sizes and shapes. So I made my hole to fit, and I will glue this in, but I haven't done yet. and that'll be another spool. The reason that I like this one is that because this is so thin, I can get, you know, quite a bit of lace or whatever around it, can't I? So similarly, I've made this one in the same way. I put some, I glued a little bit of, well, this is actually off a shirt or something, look. It's probably one of those ties, you know when you have ties at the back of shirts? Well, I think it's that. So I put that around because I've actually used 2 of these. Alright, so one has the hole in, the other one doesn't. But I wanted to make it more sturdy, thicker. So I've put that on there, yet to be glued, but that looks pretty good, doesn't it? And a bit of blue paint of my chalk paint that I was doing earlier, but that's nice because I can get a, you know, fair amount of the lace on that one. Just going on from that, here's the thicker stick, look, and this is, you know, when you have a worktop and you want some leads, electrical cables or whatever to go through it, and there's a little drill kind of piece that will take out these circular ones. Well, it always comes with, because that's where the drill goes, it always comes with the hole in it. So that, I just thought that's ideal. So I literally went through here, and as I said, there are kind of various diameters on there. I just went through and found a stick that fitted in perfectly. Now I only have one of these, so next time my husband's doing something that needs holes in, I will just ask him to keep all these pieces. I knew at the time that this would come in handy for something, I just didn't know what, and I didn't know at that time that I needed to keep them in pairs. As you can see, one side, look, I have sanded, and the other one I haven't. Took off the little kind of loose edges, you know, where the wood might pop up, and then I waxed it. That's what's given me this, and I think that's really nice. Again, that's a nice tight fitting on that one as well, so that's really good. I mean, I honestly think that you'd be able to find some sticks that fit in some holes, but these are just various things you can use. So these were from the game and a stick, this is from the drill and a stick, wooden slices. And have a look and realise that, you know, gather all these bits and pieces and see what you can bring together. I mean, another way we store things is on little pegs, isn't it? You know, store lots of those in there, and they look great. I really do like them, but it's no good for when we have larger pieces of fabric, is it? Now this is another one I've made, a bit wild compared to the others, but I just wanted to show you how you can make them your own. Obviously this is one of those glass pieces that goes onto a candle. What I've used for here is something slightly different again. Now this fabric here, it looks like sort of cafe curtaining, doesn't it? It's lovely, it's really lovely, but it does crease really easily, so that definitely needs to be kept on something. So what I've done for this one is I've used my tube and I've used my tops. I've covered these with fabric in the usual way, but really importantly, I haven't cut off any of this excess. I want lots here, because we want this to gather up into the middle, don't we? As I say, nothing clever in this one. All you need to do is make sure that you have a strong thread, and I would double it as well. I'm going to give myself a big knot there. You know how it goes. Sorry about the state of my nails. They are really, really bad at the minute because I'm spending most of my time out gardening. It's so lovely out there. I'm busy recycling things that I find and making them suitable for the garden. And I will have a video or two on that if you're interested. It's difficult for gardening things because I'm mainly sewing. If I then start making videos on gardening, then a lot of you guys will just say, oh, no thanks, and not watch. But I don't want to put you off because I will be sewing again very, very soon. as you can see here. Right, like I say, a big nasty knot, because I want that to be able to take the strain in a minute. So gather it up just a little bit first, pop that one in there, to the other side. I don't want to fold it the other way because I want my big knot to stay inside. And gather it as you would normally, so just make sure that it's nice and even here. From there, we don't want to see big bulges here and then smooth bits. We want it to be nice and even all the way around. Really important. This is why your thread and your knot need to be really durable. There we are, lovely and tight. And sew around here as you would normally. So what we want all this bulk here, look, because we want to be able to stuff it into the end. If you don't have enough at this stage, if you start putting it in like this and you think, oh, actually it's a bit sort of wibbly wobbly, and you still have a chance at the moment to put a little bit of extra fabric in there, because again, we want it nice and snug, we really, really do. So I'll put those in there on each end. As I say, make sure this is nice and smooth first, because that will really matter. And then I've used my lovely felt again, the same one that we used in there. So I folded it around. I wanted it to just meet, but not have any gaps at all. And then I've stitched it down there. Looks a little bit like a cat toy at the minute, doesn't it? You know, one of those cat scratchers. You usually have them lots of different levels, don't you? So that probably has some really tough card in it as well. So that'd be really good to use for the tubes. So the reason that I wanted this to be nice and kind of fluffy as well here is that I wanted to be able to stitch into this. So if I were using one piece, say I was using this, I wanted to be able to stitch on it. So these are some bits that I've dyed a little while ago, just with bits and bobs, rust and things from in the garden, as you can see. Some amazing results, look. So I will do a video on that as well, because I was just so chuffed. I loved the variation in here, but I digress. And there are times, aren't there, when you want to actually attach it. So, you know, you might not be using this for storage, you might be using it for an actual project, in which case I think this is a really good option to put on the felt first. That's really nice, it feels really nice as well, you know. And as I say, by the time this is full up, we're not going to see the inside of this, of our little kind of mushroom tops. So fold it around like that, and then it does mean, because I quite often want to pin this and as I say, you can decorate it with this sort of thing afterwards if you needed to, if you felt inclined. Or that's my little, with lovely little brooches like this. I love to use them for this sort of thing. Or it could be purely decorative, and I think that's a good option too. So that's if you don't have any paint, but you just want to use fabric, tube, and the lids. These were painted with the lids, and this one was painted with coasters. So this one is going to have this on it. That one, I have my ordinary piece of lace. This one will probably be some smaller bits. There, that looks pretty nice. I even like it flapped down like that as well. This is where some of my lovely brooches come in to good effect as well. Because these aren't things, are they, that we're giving away? These are things that we're using for our own storage. So why not use your own jewellery on it as well? So which one do you like? I know which one is my favourite. Definitely. I have a favourite in here. Let me know what you think. So I hope you can see the value that you can get out of some cardboard tubes and some ordinary jar lids. I mean, I think these are pretty good, I really do. I'm going to be making these for some time to come, I know I am. And I have lots of other ideas still of things that I can use for storage. In the meantime, have a quick look at this video here while I showed you a little bit more of my craft room. I think you'll see why using storage that's pretty is just so important to me.